Welcome back. You're watching News Hour. It's the second hour of the show. It's time for an in-depth discussion on the state of devolution. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm joined in studio by Professor Hillary Barchok, the governor of Bomet County. It's great to have you with us, Professor. I think the last time we had a conversation, you were a doctor.
Yes.
So now it's a professor.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It seems you're doing a lot personally and for the county as well. So it has been a busy week. Perhaps I can start on that particular point. We saw a couple of governors meet with the deputy president and other stakeholders under the IBEC meeting. And before we get to that, perhaps you can build up on how after the elections you were able to, get your house in order. How has it been? 1.5 months or 2 months thereabout? How has it been?
Thank you very much. And let me take this opportunity, first of all, to thank the people of Bomet for showing confidence in me and giving me another chance to serve my second and last term as the governor of Bomet. Of course, for those of us who are continuing, it's not a bit of a challenge compared to our colleagues who are serving for the first time. So to us, it is continuation. But of course, we have to go through the process, the normal process of induction, being taken through the processes, what is expected of us as governors, so that we don't have challenges as far as management of the counties is concerned. So far, so good, and I'm happy with the progress.
Now, speaking of challenges, and I'm just giving you a chance to clear the air, because you were on record after your swearing in, holding a meeting with employees from your county after assuming office. You read the riot act to the staff saying you will only work with, loyal staff. And allow me to quote you. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, This is verbatim. I will make a hard decision to let you go because I can no longer work with staff who do not support my leadership. Did you make good your threat, and what criteria did you use, perhaps?
Perhaps we need to correct that statement because when I came in 2019, I actually talked to my staff 3 times because I think we need to delink public service from politics. We as politicians, we come in and we go out, but the public service remains.
Yes.
But I think the challenge that we have been having, and I think this is majorly affecting our counties, most of our public services have been politicized. They would want to serve the sitting governor. And even when it comes to campaigns, they go out to campaign for the sitting governor. And that should not be the case, because tomorrow when I'm not there, somebody else takes over. What happens?
Yeah.
If you are siding with my opponent or siding with me?
Okay.
So it's a bit of a challenge, and we need to come out clearly and say a public servant should remain neutral, because you will serve me. Tomorrow, somebody else will be sitting on my seat. You still need to serve, because what is paramount is the service to the people, not the politics. The only way you can support a politician is to support the agenda of the government. That is the only thing that we require of a public servant. And that is the message that I gave to my employees. Those who want to engage in politics, I release them to engage in politics. Those ones who want to give service to Wananchi, we give them an opportunity to serve. And that was the message that I gave out.
So you didn't fire any of the Bomet County staff? You just gave them an opportunity. Perhaps if they're more interested in politics, go ahead.
Yes. And I even gave them instruction. Those who are willing to resign and go to politics, they should bring the letter before me, and I will release them.
Okay.
Happily, of course.
Okay, but let's talk about the bigger picture. And this is why I asked this in terms of the wage bill dilemma in counties. As of March this year, the wage bill in the counties had hit a total of 139 billion Kenya shillings, and that's equivalent to 35.2%. I'm sure you know the required wage bill cap is at 35%. So what wage bill perhaps are we looking at in your county? Let's start from that particular point. Is it above that recommended cap of 35% perhaps?
Except for around 5 counties out of 47, I think most of us are doing well above 35%. In Bomet, I think we are doing around 37, 38%. So 3-4 points beyond the limit.
Okay.
And this is something that we need to have an honest discussion. It is an issue that we need to analyze. First of all, how do we determine this 35%? That is an issue. We have a number of services and functions that have been devolved to the county governments without resources following, which means out of the allocations that we are being given, much of that allocation is actually going to facilitate services. And these services is not given out by the governor. There are people who are supporting the governor. They are employees. We need to employ. For example, we have the ECT teachers, which takes a bulk of our resources. And we have not been given money for that service. And we have to give out that service. SRC has given us a recommendation on how much should be paid to our ECD teachers, something that is not affordable to most of us. Now we have this 35% that should be going to the wage bill, and the rest should go to development. So balancing that has been an issue. And that is why I'm saying we need to open a discussion and be honest in our discussion. Are we able to stick to that 35%, or we need an adjustment? Because that's a problem.
So from where you sit, perhaps are you pushing for an adjustment to that particular number? Because one might argue, you know, if you affect the number of employees under a certain county, then how do you change those numbers of employees under the counties without affecting service delivery to the people, you know?
It is quite, and that's why I'm saying it is a very delicate balance, because we need a vision and effective services to get to the people. And you cannot deliver as an individual, you deliver through people. So which means we require employees in all the departments, and they will be eating into this money. So the balancing of 35 and the rest of the funds to go to development is a big challenge. And that's why I'm saying it is very difficult for us as governors to stick to that 35%.
Interesting. Well, it has been a busy week, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, and the IBEC meeting that was chaired for the first time by the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, actually took place just yesterday. We just want to hear a little bit of what the Deputy President had to say in terms of delayed disbursement of funds to counties. Just listening.
Having been briefed on the past achievements and challenges, I wish to confirm that the Kenya Kwanza administration and myself as the chairperson of this council is committed to ensuring that the mandate of the council is realized, and in particular that the decisions made are implemented without undue delay. We have noted today, even as the county governments complain about delayed disbursements, they continue to hold over 30 billion shillings in their accounts. And we have agreed going forward that disbursement will be informed by quick absorption of funds. Those counties that absorb quickly will get the first priority in disbursement.
So the message sort of being simplified by my words in terms of don't be too quick to complain about the delayed disbursement of funds. What of the absorption rate of funds disbursed to counties? What occurs in terms of this delayed absorption, especially in counties, from your point of view?
I want to say that, of course, I agree with the Deputy President that from the analysis that we given yesterday, there are a number of counties that have not absorbed their money, although the money has been released to them, but it is still in their account. And I want to say this could be unique, especially in times when we have transition. Now we just came out of elections, and we have new administration in some of the counties. So we would not expect them to move very fast and absorb the money, because they need to readjust and maybe even do supplementary and prioritize that money to the areas that they feel, based on their manifesto that they sold to the people, areas where that money should go. So I think this was a bit unique for us this time round. But under normal circumstances, I don't expect any county, once the money has been dispersed, You have tendered for services and goods that should be supplied to the county, that you receive the money and you don't pay your suppliers. So that would look a bit awkward. So in fact, what we have been facing as counties is late disbursement from the National Treasury. And that has been our complaint all along. And if you still remember, even the message that the president and the assurance that he gave to the counties is that we shall be having timely disbursement of resources from the National Treasury to the counties.
Yes.
Because those are actually the centers of our development.
It should be by 15th of
every month.
Every month, yeah.
Yeah, and that has been an issue. In fact, even as we are talking, we still have a backlog.
How many months?
I think 1 month.
Okay.
1 month, and then there are some counties, very few of them, I think around 5, who have 2 months in arrears.
Yeah.
But I think so far so good that National Treasury has tried, but still we need that prompt disbursement of resources so that we can implement our projects, we can pay our suppliers. In fact, part of the reasons why we have huge pending bills in counties is when we delay in disbursing the money, it crosses over to the next financial year, it becomes a pending bill, and so forth. And then, of course, in the first and second quarter, the disbursements and the absorptions are normally very slow because of those late disbursements from the National Treasury. But so far, so good. And because we have been promised by the president and with the new administration, we hope things will change and counties will be receiving their monies latest by 15th of every month.
What do you make of that proposal in terms of we will distribute this shareable revenue as fast as you absorb as counties? Does it make legal sense from where you sit in terms of that proposal? And is it the much needed cure in terms of late disbursement of funds? Because it has been a recurring issue time and time again.
I agree totally with our chairman, who is the deputy president chairing IBEC, that if you are given money, you don't spend money. You know, we have a lot of competition in terms of the demands for this very scarce resource. So if you don't need that resource, then we can have that resource going to a county that is pressed in terms of demands for this resource as you wait to organize yourself. I think that was the message. So that you don't hold into 4 billion or 5 billion in your account when I don't have money in my county and I need that money. So I can be given that money so that tomorrow when you are ready, your money can be released. Of course, I think that is the message, because if you hold into resources, of course, it will not be fair for all of us, be it the national government or the county governments, because all of us are fighting for that resource. So I think it is good practice, although it may not make sense in terms of legally or in terms, because at the end of the day, this is your money. But what we are saying, if you don't need that money now, you can wait until tomorrow. Let me use it today, and then tomorrow you'll be given that money.
Well, it looks like we're opening a Pandora's box. But anyway, that was during the IBEC meeting. Perhaps you could tell us about some of the takeaways from the IBEC meeting that was held just yesterday. Because previously we saw some governors who used to sort of shun the IBEC meetings back when we were in a different administration, if I can put it that way. What was forthcoming from this meeting that was attended fully by most, if not all, governors, including the Treasury officials, you name them?
I think it is very important to note that this IBEC is actually established under Section 187 of BFM Act. And in the last administration, we had a lot of challenges because of the perceived or the differences that were between the president and the deputy president. So a number of our colleagues didn't attend the IBEC meetings because of they didn't want to associate and bring that closeness with the deputy president then, who is currently our president. Not because of their own choice of vocation, but because of being pushed by the then administration that they should not have any association with the deputy president. Of course, there are resolutions that were passed but they were never implemented because there was no political will. But from yesterday's meeting, we saw a lot of goodwill from the national government. We saw that cooperation and even the communication that came from the Deputy President welcoming all of us to work as a team, irrespective of which political alignment that you are following, it be it Kenya Kwanza or the other team of Azimio.
Yeah.
We are one at the end of the day, and we are serving the people of the Republic of Kenya, be it whether you are serving in the national government or in the county government. This service must get to the Wanjiku, the Mwananchi of Kenya.
Okay.
So I think we have a good start, and we need to remain united. We need to work cooperatively as the national and as the county governments so that we have seamless delivery of services to the Mwananchi.
Okay, so it's all about turning a new leaf in terms of the national and county governments. But I have to ask you this, because we've received assurance from the national government, especially counties, that you'll get your money in good time, increase in shareable revenue over the next 5 years will be implemented. Can you take their word to the bank? Sorry to say, because we've had promises handed over time and time again, but issue is usually in implementation. What's different this time round?
I think we have to be honest in our discussion.
Yeah.
As much as we want to have increased in terms of the allocations that we're given as counties, we also have a duty as county governments to increase our own source revenue so that we don't rely on the national treasury. In fact, I said today or yesterday's paper where it was reported that we are losing a lot of money, revenue as counties.
Okay.
So one area that we need to focus on as counties is to make sure that we tighten those loose ends and those leakages that we have in our own source revenue, as much as we are looking up to the national government to give us the share that we normally receive. Of course, we have a lot of burden. The government has a lot of burden, and we have to be realistic. We don't have to overdemand from the national government. We have to live to the realities that we have as a country. We are struggling, and all of us have to find a solution to the economic challenges that we are facing. Okay. And I've said one way, of course, is to make sure that we collect 100% of our own source revenue from the counties.
And what's the case in Bomet County? Perhaps you can break down the figures in terms of increment in own source revenue. What has your administration been able to do in the short time you've been in office in terms of increasing OSR?
From an analysis that was done, our potential in terms of own source revenue is 500 to 600 million. But normally we collect almost a third of that, which means there are a lot of leakages. Yeah. And one thing that we want to strengthen now is the automation of revenue collection so that we minimize the contact between the people and the monies. Yes. So automation of that service, and then map out all the streams of revenue, and then working also on our valuation role. Okay. Because that could also be one way of raising the revenue that comes from properties and so forth. So that is one area, and I want to believe that within the next 1 year, we'll see a lot of difference in terms of the revenue that we are collecting. In fact, one way of handling that issue of even the 35%, if we can increase, we call it the numerator, in terms of the revenue that we receive, then we would be able to actually be lying between 34 and 35%. I've talked of 37, 38%. Yes. But if we can increase our own source revenue, then we will be within the requirements of the law.
Okay. Yeah. That's really proper. And let's shift focus to yet another issue that is belittling counties. And I'm talking about pending bills. A report released in March by the Controller of Budget showed the 47 counties had accumulated pending bills worth 107 billion shillings. And that's quite a hefty sum. And I just want to bring it home. Bomet County, what are you looking at in terms of pending bills? What's the amount?
We are currently around 200 million,
200
or
million.
less.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, when we are ranked, I think we are around number 42. 42, so top 5
Yes.
with less pending bills.
So you're doing, okay, so far so good.
So
Let's
far,
put
so
it that
good.
way. And I just
But
want
even
to,
if it is a shilling,
Uh-huh.
it is not my money. It belongs to the contractor or that supplier,
Yes.
and it should be paid.
and there's proof for work. Are
And
you
it's-
undertaking that as well?
Now, we need to categorize the pending bills.
Yeah.
There are ones which, of course, have all the documentations and what it requires to be described as a pending bill. But we also have the ones that we are describing as ineligible pending bills.
We've had that, yeah.
This is somebody claiming that he did some work or he supplied some goods, but there are no documentations. But he or she is claiming that he did something for the county.
Okay.
And it has become very difficult for us as governors to implement that, because if we pay, tomorrow it becomes an audit query. We have been given a checklist. In fact, that was part of the discussion that we had yesterday, and we given a checklist because at the end of the day, with or without,
Yeah.
if we can have a proof that this person actually did some work for us, he has all the legitimate right to claim for payment for that service or works that were given to the county.
Okay.
Like I know, like in my place, there is somebody who constructed a ward office. So the office is there. The only thing that is missing is the documentation for that. But the physical office is there.
There's proof of work.
There is
Okay.
proof of work.
Uh-huh.
But nothing, no documentation. It was given verbally. So we have to find a way
Okay.
of actually honoring that claim, because it is a pending bill, but with no documentation. So those are some of the challenges that we have been facing as governors.
Okay.
Because you do this, you are also taken to
And there'll be an audit.
task
Yeah.
in terms of audit.
Uh-huh.
How did you pay
Exactly.
so and so, yet there are no
Documentation.
documentations. So that becomes a very delicate balance for us. But at the end of the day, these are our people.
Okay.
They have spent their money. In fact, some of them have suffered. Their own vehicles have been auctioned. Their chambers have been auctioned.
Yeah.
Because they put everything in that investment, hoping that they will have some return out of it. So we don't have to be so unfair to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to listen to what governors had to say in terms of pending bills and how they want to, tackle this issue once and for all. As I mentioned, there's been a couple of workshops, including one that was held in Naivasha, and these are some of the sentiments that were gathered from that particular workshop. Just listening.
To county governments within statutory timelines. The actors are the National Treasury. 3, the National Treasury, the Council of Governors, and the Commission of Revenue Allocation shall have a working committees to develop position papers on how to handle, among others, the payment of salaries of the ECD teachers and the classification of development spending.
Najua swala ambalo tumeshughulikia sana ni kuchelewa kwa pesa kutoka serikali kuu, ambayo imeathiri sana malipo, especially mambo ya pending bills. Na vile tumekuwa hapa kwa kikao na magovernors wenzangu, tumewarai wana treasury kwamba zile pesa ambazo natakana zitoke kwa national government, sana sana kulipa pending bills, warelease hiyo pesa kwa haraka.
Tumehakikisha kwamba tumeenda cashless. Yani mambo ya kutumia pesa na kupatia pesa unanipatia receipt tumemaliza. Sasa tumeenda cashless, tunalipa na pay bill, hata tuko na USSD code. Tunaona kuna watu wana resist hiyo new strategy, lakini lazima ifanye kazi.
Lazima tuwe na political group, kwa sababu ninajua kama treasury, yule ambaye waziri wa treasury na katibu wameajiriwa na national government. Kwa hivyo wakiona kwamba mheshimiwa rais kwa mfano mwenyewe amesema kwamba kulingana na katiba pesa ziwe zimeenda wakati unaofaa. Hizi pesa zitakuja.
Some counties here, they have pending bills close to 5-6 billion. And the requirement from the treasury is that you should pay the pending bills first, which cannot, it cannot be untenable. You pay, you cannot run any, including even paying salaries of the current employees of the county. That's a big issue.
In Kericho, we've already moved forward, and we have come up with a team to look into the pending bills question, be able to isolate what is genuine and what is not genuine. Because we also understand that the contractors that did their work genuinely need their money to have money circulating the economy of our counties.
Definitely, we do have pending bills that are committed irregularly during the first term of the formation of the devolution units. There has been a debate on whether really those bills are eligible for payment. And there seems to be a standoff between the control of budget, the Office of the Auditor General, and the counties. Because the Office of the Auditor General did do what they call due diligence in terms of audit for the pending bills. But as counties, we believe that it was not really very good due diligence, because they insist as far as the work has been done and it is visible, it does not matter whether procedure was followed in acquiring those jobs.
Okay, so this is some of the sentiments gathered during that particular workshop. So we've heard of due diligence. We've heard of how perhaps impossible it is to follow that Treasury directive. Finish up with the pending bills, then take a look at other financial obligations you have as counties. Your reaction to some of the sentiments there?
Of course, normally the first charge is the pending bills. So you are required to pay your bills, and then the other things follows.
Yeah.
But that's very difficult, because that will mean you pay everything out,
Yes.
and you have nothing to run services in the county, including those very critical services like in health.
Yes.
So we have been trying to balance. And then apart from late disbursement of funds to the counties, I think we have also been doing over projection in terms of our own source revenue. For example, if in Bomet I project that I will collect 400 million as own source revenue, so I put it in my budget, I commit, and then tomorrow I collect 200 million, I have a deficit of 200 million, which will be carried forward because I've already committed in terms of works and services. So for 5 years, that will be around 1 billion. So you can imagine, and that is what some of our counties are inheriting. So if you pay bills as the first charge, you'll have nothing to run services and to run the county. So that has been a challenge. Of course, we have committees that have been assisting us to verify those bills. And like in my county, they have been able to separate what we call illegible and legible pending bills. And of course, we have those, like what I've indicated, like we have evidence of what was done,
but no documentation.
Okay. And yesterday I've said we're given a checklist so that we don't treat that person unfairly. Because they are, at the end of the day, they are our people and they have invested their money.
Okay.
So we need to find ways of ensuring that we settle those bills. And then the other thing that our chair noted, the issue of development and the wages that we are paying, the recurrent expenditure that we have.
Yeah.
So we want to have a debate, what is development? Because we can be saying our wage bill is very high, but what are we describing in terms of development?
Okay.
There was even proposal, although it may not work out, that we make the payment for ECD teachers to be part of development. There are proposals that we need to have conditional grants from the national government to cover this.
Yeah.
Because if we implement what was proposed by RSRC, then you will have wage bill running to 60s or 70% in our counties, because the proposal is very high.
And I understand there's a debt action plan, is it? In terms of how counties are supposed to, get rid of the debts, and the counties are supposed to work with the Attorney General and the Controller of Budget. Have you done this? How impactful is it really, from your point of view as the Bomet Governor? An action plan of how debts are supposed to be paid, which is set to be formulated in counties.
It will be a challenge. And this thing of bills is not a problem to the counties alone.
Okay.
Even the national government is struggling.
True.
So as much as we are making a lot of demands as counties to the national government, I think the national government has been a bit silent.
Okay.
Because it is the source of these funds that we are demanding. So they are quiet, but they are also suffering. So, and that is why I've said, I think we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to speak honestly to the economic challenges that we are facing as a country, and we should not live in denial. We are in a mess, and all of us have to find a solution to this problem. In fact, we are in the process of finalizing the liabilities and assets and liabilities from the defunct local authorities, and you can be very sure that these liabilities will still come to us as counties.
Okay.
Where will we get money for those liabilities? So it is a problem.
It's definitely a challenge cut out for the governors in office. Let's talk about increase in terms of shareable revenue. I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier on, but in terms of those devolved functions that haven't really been devolved. And we've heard from the president during his swearing-in address, promising to transfer all functions devolved as per the constitution, and that will be followed by more funds. And I think just yesterday, the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, giving a timeline that the transfer of functions will be over within a 6-month timeline. How important is this for counties that, you've devolved functions, yet money isn't following these functions that haven't been fully devolved? Paint a picture, especially in terms of the health services and perhaps how they've been affected when you come to Bomet County. Bring it home for us.
Of course, unbundling and giving us those functions as counties, on paper, is very easy. But the challenge that we have been having is those functions being followed by the resources.
Sure.
And at one point, even from my colleagues, they were saying, I think we should now do it the other way around. We have the resources coming first, and then followed later by the functions. Because what we fear as counties is being given functions, and there are no resources. Like library services, for example. When you talk of library services, probably what will all the staff employed by those library institutions will still be devolved. They will come to the counties. Where will I get money to pay those people?
Workers.
Those workers. So that becomes a challenge.
Okay.
There are roles that were given to us, but we have not been given money.
Okay.
The money remains with the national government. So it becomes a bit of a challenge. Of course, if we can be given the functions and the resources, then I don't think as governors will be having any challenge in taking over those functions, so long as we are facilitated so that we can implement those functions. So the IGPRC have tried, because from the transitional authority to IGPRC, they have done a bit of some work in terms of what needs to comes to the county government, what needs to remain with the national government. Of course, there are some that we share with the national government, but what we need is resources to accompany those functions. But function being given to us without the resources, then personally I will say let it remain with the national government, because I will have a lot of challenges.
Okay, shifting blame. Anyway, that's interesting. Let's talk about education. And I know what falls under the county governments is the early child development education, ECDEs. What's the state of affairs within Bomet County? And I know education matters are really close to your heart, Prof, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what's the state of affairs when it comes to ECDE? We've heard of the COG chair, Anne Waiguru, speak on this matter. And you've equally mentioned how SRC has broken down in terms of remuneration, how exactly you're supposed to, pay these ECDE teachers. What's the latest from your county?
Thank you very much. I think this is one of the functions that we've been given as counties.
Yeah.
And we have to take care of the human resource, that is the teacher. The other aspect that we need to take care in ECDs is the issue of nutrition.
School feeding program.
Yes, and then of course the infrastructure. So in Bomet, I think we have constructed quite a number of centers. And we have also employed over 1,300 ECD teachers on permanent and pensionable terms. We have slightly improved our terms of service in terms of the salaries that we're giving to these ECD teachers. And hopefully, before the end of this financial year, maybe in the second or third quarter, we will be able to actualize what was proposed by SRC in terms of the salaries that should be going to these people. Of course, that will raise our wage bill, but we have no option because the welfare of our children depends on the welfare of the teacher. So we must also take care of their welfare. They are sacrificing a lot. I normally say an ECD teacher should be even more, should be paid more than even a university professor.
Why is that?
Because he's everything or she's everything to this child.
Oh, the foundation.
A social worker,
yes,
a teacher, a legal person. He's everything, she's everything to the child.
Okay.
So, and that is why these teachers should be taken care of. A good foundation for the learner is a good foundation for primary school, secondary school, and even university. Research has shown that when you give a good foundation to the child in those formative years, chances of success in subsequent levels of education are very high.
Very high.
And that's why we need to invest a lot of resources to ensure that they have good infrastructure, the teacher is well remunerated, the learner is taken care of in terms of nutrition, and the environment where they are working and learning is also safe.
Okay.
So we are doing, I don't want to say very well, because the payment is not very attractive in the moment. But in the next few months, probably, I would say, we'll have implemented the SRC proposal, and they will be smiling all the way to the bank, they normally say.
Well, if there's an ECD teacher from Bomet watching, I'm pretty sure they are receptive to that particular message. And I have to ask you about CBC, Prof, because a lot is happening in terms of the competency-based curriculum. We well know of the task force that was set up, to review this curriculum that we have that was quite a source of fodder, even on the campaign trail. From where you sit as an academician this time round, removing the political hat that you wear, are we moving towards the right direction in terms of appropriate structures to implement competency-based curriculum, even governance of this subsector? What say you about it?
Thank you very much. And I think, as you have rightly put it, we have been having a lot of debate on what we are implementing as a country in terms of what we are describing as CBC.
Yeah.
I think I was the first person to come out and speak out on this issue. I had my own reservation on how we are handling the reforms and the reviews and the recommendations that were coming from whichever quarters, be it from the consultant, or even, I don't know if we have some people who had interest, because sometimes you can implement a curriculum that does not belong to you. And to me, there are so many things that went wrong with this curriculum. And I'm in total agreement with what Amina said back in 2017 that we are not prepared for the rollout of this curriculum that we are describing as CBC.
Even as we speak right now, we're not prepared in terms of, is it infrastructure? Is it the curriculum itself, what our learners are actually learning and how they're learning in our schools? Well, what issue do you have with it specifically?
There is nothing that we, I mean, personally, I would want to say parents are not prepared, teachers are not prepared, and the infrastructure is not in place. Next year, we'll be having students transiting to junior secondary school, and the last cohort of 844 moving to Form 1. Even in your own area, how many classrooms have been constructed?
But we've seen the Cabinet Secretary for Education go around, give the nation a positive response that classrooms are on course. And not just that, teachers are being trained on CBC. So
how many classrooms have been constructed in your former school? If we have been having challenges in 100% transition under the current education system, what will happen when we have double transition? It will be a disaster. And I remember mentioning this in 2020 in one of the stations, that wait for 2023 and you'll see a real disaster in this country. But I want to thank the president for coming out and, of course, putting constituting that task force to look at the CBC.
Okay.
One of the mandate, of course, they were talking of summative evaluation of the curriculum, which, of course, I think it's too early for us to talk of summative evaluation because we have not gone the full cycle. So maybe just to do an evaluation and do some assessment on the status of the CBC.
Okay.
They are also to make recommendation on the structure that can be used to implement CPC successfully. And talking as an expert and not as a politician, I think people did not listen to the experts. I'm a curriculum expert myself, and I insisted all the way from 2017. In fact, I wanted to give my input, not to be paid, but because taxpayers' money was spent in me. I was trained using taxpayers' money, and it will be unfair for me if I keep quiet and close my eyes when things are going wrong.
Okay.
And that is why all along we've insisted in giving our opinion and suggestions on ways of improving so that we don't put the lives of our children at risk.
Then let me ask you this. In order to avert what you've termed as a disaster in waiting, when, you know, double transition is happening, perhaps a word to some of the committee members in that task force, what areas of focus, as a curriculum expert, do you think they should delve into to make this CBC thing not a nightmare, you know, that it's actually successful? And we heard from the Deputy President that CBC might be here to stay, you know? So how do we tweak it from your point of view to make it even better for the learner and the teachers as well?
Of course, I will be making my recommendation to the committee. I'm now working on my paper. I'll be making submissions to them.
Okay.
Within the 30 days window that they have given to us. But all the same, I would want to mention that CBC is not something that is new. I don't know why people are so obsessed with competency, curriculum, or education. It is not something new.
Okay.
We have been having that in our system. In fact, if we had not mutilated the 844 system, if we had implemented as it was actually structured and designed, we would not be complaining of the issues that we are facing currently. Because if you see the philosophy of the 844 system of education for self-reliance. So we wanted to equip our learners with its skills, knowledge, and competencies so that they can become actually self-reliant. They can terminate at any level, and then probably they can do 1, 2, 3 things, of course, to earn a living. But the problem is what came after in terms of the reviews and the policies that we put in place, mutilating that curriculum. We removed the practical subjects, content that were perceived to be, specializing, giving some the candidates or the correct ones at those levels that knowledge that they require to specialize in a given area were removed from the basic education and taken to higher levels of education, higher institutions of learning. So out of that, what remained of the 844 system of education was a shell. And that is why we keep claiming that this system was examination oriented. And then it focused on the cognitive dimension of the learner, leaving out the psychomotor and what we call the affective domain of learning. Because what we are now hearing with CPC is that it is an holistic kind of education, capturing all aspects of the learner, you know, and yet we were unfair to the 844 system in terms of the policies that we introduced, in terms of the reviews that we introduced, making it a shell. And there was also a claim that the 844 system was very expensive. CPC is even more expensive. And to me, where I sit as an expert, we cannot say CPC is a system of education. It is not. And we can still achieve the same using the 844 system by incorporating the aspects that we want out of the competency curriculum in the 844 system of education. The only thing that we need to do is to change the focus of assessment. You know, I think the reason why within the 844 system some areas were neglected is because of the assessment. We want to shine as a school. I want my learners to shine. So why should I focus on areas that will not be examined? So I think the only thing that we can do is to change the focus of our examination and have teachers focusing on areas that we think are very important to us, like competencies. What do you want to develop? So let us focus on that, examining that. And we remain with the 844 system of education.
Well, some might say you're holding on to the past in terms of bringing up 844, but let's see what this task force actually brings forth as they were put to task by the new administration. As we finish off, and finally, Bwana Governor, I know you're on the campaign trail handing over promises in terms of your focus in the next 5 years. Now that you've assumed office, and perhaps a word to the people of Bomet County, what areas are you focusing in this fast formative years of your 5 years in administration, whether it's improving service delivery? What will they see? What will they feel different in Bomet County when it comes to the functions under the county government? Just briefly as we finish.
Thank you very much. I think we are now in the process of revising our CIDP, which will be a blueprint for our development. So we will be coming out, talking to the wananchi, and also so that we can have their input. And it will also give us an opportunity to realign our agenda with the agenda of the national government and the Kenya Kwanza agenda. And of course, most of the promises that we gave to the people, be it at the national or at the county level, most of them, I think, personally, I can say, are in line with the priorities that we have as counties. And I heard the president talking today in terms of adding value to some of the produce that comes from our farms. And one area that we want to focus in as county of Bomet is the value addition of tea. And we produce a lot of, in fact, Bomet produces the largest amount of tea in Kenya. It is not Kericho. So that is one area that we'll be focusing on.
Value addition
of the products that come from our farms. And I want to single out tea. That is an area that we started having discussion even towards the end of my first term. And we already have a partner who is willing to come and invest, join partnerships so that we can have a shared facility where we can value add our tea so that it fetches more money to our farmers.
And I think I remember seeing you flagging off. Was it Bomet tea right before the elections, if my memory serves me correctly?
Yeah. But unfortunately, we didn't receive a lot of support from the national government.
Okay.
We even drafted an MOU with some of the provinces in Iran, and the MOU is still lying in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I'm waiting for the new cabinet secretary, and then we will revive that MOU. Because we must go out and
expand the market
and look for market outside the traditional markets that we normally have as a country.
All right.
Otherwise, if we limit ourselves and go for the same people that are buying our teas always, then of course you can be very sure that the prices will not be improving.
All right.
So that is one area. And then of course service delivery, and that's why I gave that communication to my employees. We need efficient and effective services getting to the people. Like we now have extension officers who have been drawing salary. They don't give any advice to the farmers. How do we expect production to go up if we don't advise farmers on the new technologies of farming and so forth?
And going to the farmers where
going to the farmers. So we want, and we are demanding value for our money in terms of what we are paying as salaries. So that is one area. Health, of course. Very soon we'll be launching our Mother and Child Wellness Center, which will be the largest facility in Bomet, because our health is also our wealth. So, and then of course, from yesterday's communication, one area that we also discussed is strengthening the primary health care, because it is very expensive to treat. And that's one area that we've been losing a lot of money. So we will also be focusing on that so that we reduce the money that we are using in purchasing of drugs and take money to other areas of development. So focusing on primary health care with the support of the national government.
You definitely have your work cut out for you in the next 5 years. All the best, Prof, as you embark on your duties as governor. And we definitely appreciate your time, making time for us just to inform the members of the public on a couple of issues concerning Bomet and the county governments as such. Thank you so much, Prof. Asante sana for your time. Okay, so we just had a discussion with Professor Hillary Barchok, the Bomet County Governor, on perhaps his outlook for the next 5 years, bearing in mind some of the challenges that county governments are facing. Wage bill, delayed disbursement of equitable funds, you name it, and equally improving on source revenue. We'll definitely keep you updated as you continue tracking devolution. My name is Jesse Rogers, and I dare say happy Mashujaa Day in advance. Have yourself a good night.